The late 90s saw a shift in the way female characters in romantic comedies were being portrayed. Instead of a damsel in distress who got swept off her feet, female main characters now were being portrayed as independent, career-driven, and feminist. The way these characters were written was influenced by the contemporary discourse surrounding the ideas of the modern woman at the time, and intending to be more representative of them. Before these common portrayals of disheveled single women came Julianne Potter in My Best Friend's Wedding. Julianne is a predecessor for this new female protagonist, being a woman who doesn't prioritize love in her life, and is instead independent and confident, having a prestigious job as a food critic, a profession which is set in a predominantly male industry. She acts in a way which Kathy Rowe calls an unruly woman, a woman whose type of femaleness and behavior is undesirable by hegemonic standards. Julianne is coded by behaviors inherent in heteromasculinity, but which render her, as a woman, unfit for a conventional relationship. Her masculine authority is mirrored by her wardrobe, another aspect that allows Julianne's integration into highly masculine environments, like the baseball match. She's one of the boys, so to speak, and relishes in the male gaze that she acquires in her professional as well as her personal life. However, when she finds out that her best friend Michael is getting married, she tries everything in her power to break up the soon-to-be wedded couple, as she realizes that she is actually in love with Michael. Julianne, rarely sentimental, becomes emotional, chaotic, and desperate, taking insane measures to break up the couple. The high amount of authority and self-esteem she normally possesses disappears, as she breaks down and becomes a conniving and scheming person. Why are the main characters in romantic comedies, as we see them most commonly now, usually anti-heroines? How are we able to still root for them and still be satisfied with their fates, even when they don't get their happy endings? Let's find out. The modern woman as the anti-heroine, and how she's portrayed in this film. At the beginning of the movie, the prospect of love radically changes Jules' motivations. She is urged to put the possible relationship above all else.
This is my whole life's happiness. I have to be ruthless.
She becomes self-sabotaging, needy, and obsessed with her love interest. This change in character is typical of the modern woman who falls in love in a romantic comedy. Sarah Hagelin and Gillian Silverman assert this in their book The New Female Antihero, that women protagonists cannot be female heroes, as the slightest move away from traditional gender norms makes them anti-heroes. They pose that the new female anti-hero is not merely a rule breaker, but rather a threat to neoliberalist patriarchal society by undermining feminine virtues and aspirations such as monogamy and marriage. Throughout the movie, we, along with her best friend George, can question if she actually loves Mike or if it's just about winning.
Seriously.
Her grand gestures ultimately seem more desperate and ego-driven instead of romantic. She doesn't care about others, instead blames them for the way she acts.
Avenue! George, this is all your fault! I told him the truth. I said that I loved him and I kissed him, and this is what's happened!
The way we interact with characters happens in a structure of sympathy, where we are aligned with and know only of the perspective and motivations of the main character. For the film to be enjoyable to us, we need to be able to identify with the character. We viewers want our emotionally biased side-taking with protagonists to be justified. One way to ensure this is to morally approve of the liked character's actions. Here, the anti-heroine has somewhat an advantage, being given the ability to fail and the option to display a much wider range of behaviors and personality traits, unlike the more common heroic, moral, and well-intentioned female protagonist. As the anti-hero storyline develops, audiences see a more relatable, human, and realistic character than the typical hero protagonist. If the audience members can recognize the potentially negative qualities of these anti-heroines in themselves, the reaction may be an embrace and acceptance of these qualities. Therefore, viewers are unable to feel relieved about an inevitable justice-restoring resolution that is to the detriment of the protagonist of a film. Instead, they are left rooting for the anti-hero. The unhappy ending of romantic comedy, this film and its unconventional ending. This film moves away from the stereotypical ending of romantic comedy, which places its central character and their love interest together in a harmonious resolution, Instead, it ends unhappily. Jules and Michael don't get together, and instead she has to see him marry someone else. Throughout the film it becomes more and more clear to us as well as to Jules that she is too late. And that in terms of having a romantic relationship with Michael, the ship has sailed. Her actions, instead of breaking them up, have only strengthened the bond between Michael and his fiancée. Instead of an ending where Jules is rewarded for her actions, she admits they were inexcusable, no matter her motivation for it. Jules' need for individual growth is what she first needs to do before finding romance. The ending of the film can be seen as, instead of a celebration of love, more so as one of friendship and self-improvement. We can conclude that the need for having a portrayal of the modern woman has led to the writing of more complex female characters, ones that at times carry anti-heroic and undesirable character traits. Women no longer have to only act as role models. In this film, failure is deemed excusable and more so acceptable, not only for Jules but also for the other characters. Kimi's horribly out-of-tune singing becomes funny and endearing. Audiences now can tolerate and have grown to appreciate, maybe even prefer, an anti-heroine as a main character over the predictable and at times superficial damsel in distress. This is due to the fact that these anti-heroines in romantic comedy aren't inherently bad people. They might have questionable motivations, they make some mistakes, but they eventually owe up to them, try to learn something from it, and move on. So, are these characters really anti-heroic or merely realistic?